I like to think about, like, what was the hurricane that just hit Florida? What was it?
Ian.
Yeah. Let's just say a hurricane, a hurricane hits Florida, people's lives are, destroyed in a sense. Did anybody die?
Oh yeah, a bunch.
Okay, yeah. I mean, Katrina, tons of people died.
I know I was talking to a friend down there last night, 250,000 have been displaced down in Fort Myers.
Right.
No homes, 250,000, they're gone.
And we say, this is bad, like this is like a natural evil. People would even call it unnatural evil.
Yeah.
Why? Because human beings were affected. Let's say that same hurricane hit some abandoned island in the middle of the ocean, and it was just trees and maybe some animals on that island and rocks and sand, and it toppled the trees down, but there's no humans there. We wouldn't say like, oh, that was an evil thing. We wouldn't describe it.
We don't think of it that way.
We don't think of it that way.
So what you're saying is we think in terms of transcendent. We think in terms of a high view of humanity.
We connect evil, injustice to persons.
Yeah. Right.
And we distinguish ourselves from every other thing that's material.
Yeah.
And so if we're just material, then why would we say that there's anything different than a tree getting toppled over by a hurricane versus a human or their house?
I think about it, Sam? It's like driving down a road, and again, everybody, doesn't matter what your worldview, doesn't matter where you come from, if you see a raccoon smushed on the side of the road, nobody calls 911. But if that was a kid, you're calling 911 and you're jumping out in a panic.
Yeah.
Why? I'm just asking the question, why? What is it within you that you know that there's a difference?
There's a difference.
I'm not just saying survival of the fittest. I mean, come on. There's a difference. You panic. You have an existential reality that goes, there is a difference here.
Right.
Just looking out for my species.
Yeah, look out for my species.
Well, you look at lions and prides, and you have the male, leader of the pride, and he'll kill the cubs of other males.
Yeah.
Because he wants his offspring to be the ones coming up.
Bears do that.
Bears do that.
Sam's went with me up in Canada. We've actually
it's all over the
bear
animal
hunting
kingdom,
up there.
and nobody's
a male bear will kill those cubs.
Nobody's bringing that line to kitty court. Like, it's just natural. It's not evil.
No.
But why, when humans do it, we're just apparently more evolved animals, do we have a problem with it, and we actually call it evil, and we oppose it to something called
good. Question. What is evil?
Yeah.
Is it a black gooey substance? Oh, here it comes! Watch out! Jump!
It's got me.
What is it? What is it? You can't see it. You can't smell it. Is it real? That's another thing. It's leveled at Christians all the time. It's the bizarrest thing to me. I'm like, well, what about evil? I'm like, okay, it's a fair discussion. I get it. I mean, I've dealt with only evil. I've had friends dying in my hands, literally in my lifetime. I've felt, but what is it? It's not a green cloud. It's not a black gooey substance. It's transcendent. It's beyond the material world, and yet we all recognize it.
Yeah.
And I would say it's it has to be a deviation. It can't be a deviation from something in my government, because we've had governments that said you can enslave people. We've had governments that say kill certain ethnic groups, right? We've had this. And we'd say, well, the government can't be the standard for evil.
Right.
What is the standard? How do I even know there's a standard? Because there has to be a perfectly straight stick to understand what a crooked stick is. To know if something's crooked, if I asked anybody, is that tree branch straight or crooked? You say, well, it's crooked. You're comparing it to something. What are you comparing it to?
According to the Catholic Church, evil is nothing more and nothing less than the absence of God.
Very good. I would go there with you.
Yeah, that's
a deviation. That's what I'm
from
saying. But there has to be a deviation from something, right?
He called it privation.
What's that?
Augustine called it privation.
Privation,
so that comes from Augustine. Aquinas also
he's studying Aquinas right now.
Had that view. Yeah, I wouldn't quite agree with him, but it's in the discussion.
Yeah,
we're trying to figure out what is evil.
So all I'm going to is like, how do you know? How do people know? They talk about evil. How do you know? Because you're comparing it to something in your being. You know that there's something, a deviation, and I'm going, it has to be a deviation from something perfectly straight.
So we're saying God.
And I'm saying that's God.
Yeah.
And that's what Romans 1 says. Everybody knows.
Yeah.
Everybody does this every day. Now, they don't sit down and think about it all the time, and that's why we want to have a discussion and kind of get people to think about it. Why do you walk around today going, that's evil?